let's be clear. President Donald Trump has a lot on his plate right now. His war on Iran has now surpassed the 100-day mark. And with Iran and Israel trading fire over the last couple days, a peace deal to end the war looks even farther away. Trump also says he never promised no new wars, even though he repeatedly campaigned on a pledge to not start wars. In fact, the night he won the election, Trump said, quote, "I'm not going to start a war." We'll get much more into all of this with Lieutenant General Mark Hertling coming up in a bit. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, progressive Nithya Raman has advanced in the Los Angeles mayor's race. She will face incumbent Karen Bass in the runoff. Raman pulled ahead of Spencer Pratt for second place in the race over the past couple of days. Pratt is Trump's chosen candidate, and Trump has been making baseless accusations of fraud in the California primaries, saying they're, quote, rigged. It comes after Trump erupted with more baseless claims of fraud in the 2020 election in an interview with Meet the Press. Just watch.
Let me ask you about Todd Blanche.
Listen to me.
Let's talk about Todd Blanche.
There's tremendous evidence. There's nothing but evidence.
The
election was rigged. It was a dirty election. And it's happening again right now in California.
You've never presented evidence.
It's happening right now in California. Right now it's look at what's happening in California.
Where's the evidence to that?
It's
the
4
Republicans
days.
are doing well in
California. No, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days, and they aren't even close to coming up with it.
That's how they count the votes in California.
You know why they're doing that? Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
all
that?
I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen to people, and let's see what happens.
But, sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they count the votes in California.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election, and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
Really?
Let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid.
Well, just moments later, Trump stormed out of that interview. He also continued to defend his so-called anti-weaponization fund, even though his acting attorney general says the fund has been halted. Trump said, quote, "If it was up to me, I'd pay them the kind of money that they deserve." And tonight, with all of that going on, Trump decided to spend his time becoming the first president to attend an NBA Finals game. That decision completely shut down part of Midtown Manhattan, moved the city's biggest watch party, and forced fans to wait in long lines because of extra security. Well, here's how Trump was greeted both by New Yorkers on the street and by Knicks fans inside Madison Square Garden.
Last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
With that, let's bring in our leadoff panel. Luke Broadwater, Pulitzer Prize-winning White House correspondent for The New York Times, Leanne Caldwell, chief Washington correspondent for Puck, and Susan Glasser, staff writer for The New Yorker. We are going to get to the NBA Finals game in just a second, folks. Okay, I was watching in my office, but I want to start with Donald Trump's claims of fraud again, Susan. Zero evidence, right? But he's continuing to claim fraud even before the election is complete. Can you just weigh in on what the cumulative effect, for lack of a better term, on our country is of him doing this so many times for about the last decade?
You know, that's exactly right. When the damage from the Trump era in American politics is toted up, you know, there's a lot of things that we're going to see in terms of laws, rules, norms eroded, shredded, the evisceration of Congress as a meaningful check on the executive. There's so many things we're going to list, but one of them, I think, is the sustained attack by the president of the United States on the credibility of so many different institutions, and in particular, the institution of voting, the core of democracy in our constitutional system. It's something that has been Trump's hallmark from the very beginning of entering politics. He even claimed the first election that he won in 2016 was rigged. He's claimed every subsequent election was rigged. His own attorney general, Bill Barr, quit in disgust after telling Donald Trump that the 2020 election was not rigged, that there was no evidence of widespread fraud, and that he would not investigate the election. To this day, Donald Trump has made belief in his lies about the 2020 election to be a foundation of a Republican Party remade in his image. And so to watch him in real time attacking with no evidence before the vote is even finished being counted to claim fraud, to claim that it's rigged. What's scary is not only that he's undermining confidence in California's election, but what does this mean looking ahead to how he's going to approach the 2026 midterm election, in which Republicans are very likely to lose seats, if not lose control of Congress outright?
You know, Luke, that is where I want to go, because I do think that the president is laying the groundwork, not just for California, which, frankly, the votes are the mail-in ballots, because how large the state is, how many people vote by mail. It oftentimes takes weeks. I remember once there was a freshman congressman who was literally in orientation when he found out he didn't win,
right,
and had to leave orientation. So this is not abnormal. What is abnormal is what the president is saying. He has even talked about having the acting DNI, Bill Pulte, who has no experience in the intelligence community, monitor elections. Can you just weigh in on how, in my opinion, insane this is? But I do think it is not random. I think it is calculated, if you will.
Yeah, well, when President Trump said that he wanted Bill Pulte to investigate election fraud and use sort of, I guess, the national intelligence apparatus to get involved in our elections, that obviously caused a lot of concern on Capitol Hill, both with Republicans and Democrats. As you know, the lawmakers are already really concerned about his lack of qualifications to start with, right? He has no background whatsoever. And then he's, from what we've heard, given two sort of marching orders from Donald Trump. One, to have mass layoffs within the intelligence community, which is very disconcerting to people. And now this, we're going to look for fraud in the elections that has been proven over and over again not to exist. So we're left to wonder, what is Bill Pulte up to here? What is Donald Trump? Why does Donald Trump want this guy for this role? It starts raising a lot of antenna and a lot of question marks on Capitol Hill. Important
to remember that Bill Pulte is the architect of the claims against Tish James, the Attorney General of New York, as well as Adam Schiff, a senator from California, and Lisa Cook, all unfounded claims of mortgage fraud. Leanne, Speaker Johnson has not been on the sidelines of this conversation. Today, he actually said that the California election, quote, stinks to high heaven. What is going on here? How much of the Republican Party is openly embracing what the president is doing here?
Yeah, well, Speaker Mike Johnson has shown absolutely no daylight between himself and the president throughout the president's term. There's a multifaceted reasons for that we can get into briefly right now, which is Speaker Johnson is Speaker of the House because of Donald Trump. He has the faith of Donald Trump because he does exactly what Donald Trump wants. And so that is where this is coming from. But the bigger issue is how impactful and how dangerous this is, and that Speaker Johnson is also now undercutting the public's faith in the elections. But also remember, after 2020, Speaker Johnson, who was then just unknown rank and file Congressman Mike Johnson, was also someone who said that the 2020 elections were rigged, and he filed amicus briefs and stood with the president on that. So it's not actually that new for Speaker Johnson to talk about elections in this way when he is trying to side with Donald Trump. But there is used to be concerns among Republicans when Trump would do this, that it would prevent and keep Republicans away from the polls because they had little faith in the elections. And so it's a little counterintuitive why Mike Johnson, who wants to win back the majority, is continuing to make comments like this.